Hey, good morning, all. Welcome to the Common Good Podcast. It's Tuesday edition, which means we're going to talk about politics today. Robb Ryerse snuggled in to a safe space outside of Fayetteville, Arkansas. Dan over by Lake Michigan. Doug just south of Duluth, Minnesota, Minneapolis. Hey, everybody, let us know where you are, where you're coming from on all this. We're going to talk about politics. It's the 11th of April, which I think means you have 1 week to tell the government how much you owe them in taxes or how much they owe you in a refund. I think it's 1 week from today. It's the 15th, which is our typical day, I think is Saturday, so somehow it gets extended to the 18th. At least I think I'm behaving that way. Are you behaving that way? Are you guys acting like, somehow but I need 3 more days?
Yeah, I have a low sense of dread about taxes this year, so much so that I have as I tend to do when it comes to things that stress me out, I'm just kind of ignoring it until I absolutely
just avoid it, and it
cannot
goes away.
Or eat sugary foods that are dipped in fat. That's great. It's just really it's a salve to the anxious soul. Nothing wrong there. I feel similarly. Sometimes I just feel like we're taxed enough already, and we need a real political movement to wrap ourselves around that.
I already ripped the Band-Aid off and paid a bunch of taxes. So
especially once you know how it actually works, and you don't need my money,
right?
Just fund all the programs, do all the stuff. You don't need my money.
Look, if you were to go through the feed, which I'm sure many of you do on a regular basis, the playlists on the YouTube channel for Vote Common Good, and if you're not yet doing that, I mean, real afternoon break. When you
dig into the archives,
when you're feeling the afternoon lull, just head over to YouTube, click on the Vote Common Good channel, subscribe, and then make sure that you go through the playlist. You'll find some about economics in there, and you're going to hear a conversation about how the federal budget is funded. As it turns out, not funded by your money or my money or anyone's money. It's funded by the government creating new money. And our money is taken out in taxes to alleviate inflation, so there's not too much money in the system, and to motivate particular behaviors. So had we spent our money on other things, we wouldn't have had to give it to the government. But nope, we didn't choose to spend it on those things. We chose to spend it on something else, and so we have to pay a tax on it. That's what that's about. It's not about pay for your government. It's about, now that's just the federal level, your state level, your county level, your city level. Yeah, they need the money. The roads, that's your money going to that pothole out there. Yep. Yep. And speaking of that, city of Minneapolis, could you please take a look at the potholes? I don't know what's happened. It's like Trump's approval rating on every street in Minneapolis, just cratering and collapsing at a regular basis, and just disastrous.
We've got a thing in our little town. The big political news here is a vote whether or not to allow weed dispensaries in the city. And the play is, if we allow 2 dispensaries, it will pay for all the roads, and we won't have to raise taxes.
That's a no-brainer. That is an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah, maybe you should talk to some of my neighbors.
Or a brain cell killer. Yeah.
I mean, the economic impact of weed legalization is tremendous. Now, needs to be done in a just and equitable way.
Okay, there we go.
Doesn't enrich big corporations and John Boehner getting the ability to buy more cigarettes and spray tan with with his big weed money. But for a local community, I mean, weed legalization is a boon for taxes.
Yeah.
If you're new to the podcast,
if you could, that'd be great.
If you're new to the political podcast and you're like, what was that reference about John Boehner and big weed money? And this is how deep we go just in casual conversation. If you've not kept up with the former congressman who was the Speaker of the House and what he's now doing, he's invested heavily in pharmaceutical grade dispensaries and the likes. But that's what you're going to get around here.
And where Trump got his idea for spray tanning.
Yeah, I heard Boehner tear up and say he's not spray tanned. It's just his skin tone. and he does speak with a tear right at the ready. So he brought it.
You kind of miss John Boehner a little bit these days, don't you? Don't you?
Somehow, I don't know. Somehow, watching the man speak when he was Speaker of the House, somehow I could smell
cry.
his breath through my television, and I just thought I could project what his breath smelled like between the alcohol, the not enough water, and the constant cigarettes. It was just like, oh my gosh! Right now. I'm thinking about it, and it makes me a little shivery.
I mean, the color
I don't miss the man.
The color of leather, and always on the brink of weeping. And he was Speaker of the House.
Speaker of the House.
Oh, the good old days.
He was. Oh, there are times where you just think back and think, wow. Remember when that was the worst thing there was going on? I think about that regularly.
Spray tans and
Tricia,
tan
thanks
suits.
for the update on tax day. Trisha, who is our today's legal assistant, has confirmed that the 15th is a Saturday, so the first full business day somehow becomes a Tuesday, and that's tax day. So you have until next Tuesday. So enjoy your weekend.
If I had just looked at my calendar, it actually does say tax day on the 18th.
Well, that's how I knew. That's the only way I knew. Actually, it wasn't like yeah. And good morning to Alex from Tampa Bay and Kimberly in Minnesota. Kimberly, I'm also in Minnesota. She says, hey, it's not 9:00. Why are you guys starting early? We apologize, but we have another interview that has to happen right after this one that has to be recorded with a guest. So to get this one in on time, we had to do this. We're going to figure out a way to let people know this. We're going to find a way to, if there was like some sort of a social network we could share this on, we would do it. So if anybody has ideas about where we could maybe post this in a way that the public could know what we know.
And I really like how this morning we feel like we've got a bit of a time crunch. We've got a hard stop, so to speak, as I typically always do on Tuesdays, and you guys do today as well. And yet we're taking so much time to just reminisce about
John Boehner,
former speakers. I mean, hey, listen, I would love to reminisce about former speakers of the House. I mean, we
should play like a game, like how many former speakers can Robb name?
Here we go. Well, here I'll do a little thing. Newt Gingrich was forced to resign as Speaker of the House because he had an affair, and Republicans then had some sense of consistency about the morality they imposed on leaders during the midst of the Bill Clinton thing. So Newt Gingrich had to resign, and then Bob Livingston was going to become Speaker of the House. But then it was revealed that he also had an affair. And so he could not become Speaker of the House as a result of that. And so Republicans really decided we need to just get someone of unreproachable character to be the Speaker of the House because, we've had these two scandals happen here. And so
they nominated that baby from that commercial where the baby talks like an adult, right? That's what they did. They finally found one that could be.
It was actually a guy named Denny Hassert, who is now in prison for molesting children.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Where do they get these people?
Not much of a pool to choose from. They should have checked in with Mitt Romney, who, as we remember, had binders full of women. And could have picked one of those.
Their choice of an unreproachable leader, just high
was
moral
that guy,
Denny Hassert.
Unreal.
Denny Hassert.
Speaking of congressmen, I think from Ohio. I think Denny Hassert was from Ohio. Who have been implicated
Trisha, can you look that up for us? Trisha will get on that and find out if Denny Hassert is from Ohio.
Trisha, where is Denny Hassert doing time? Could you figure that out for us?
Yeah, could you figure that out? Is he still under federal custody? Will he have a new bunkmate coming soon?
I feel like he's going to be in federal custody for the rest of his life. Speaking of congressmen from Ohio who have been implicated in sexual misconduct of various kinds. We're going to talk today about Jim Jordan.
real champ.
Oh,
The
this
reference
guy.
Robb
This
is
guy.
making is that when Jim
This
Jordan
guy.
was a
Wrestling.
wrestling coach at for a
The
college program.
Ohio State
I
University.
was going to say for a small college that doesn't like to brag about itself, the Ohio State University.
The Ohio State University.
He kept quiet accusations from wrestlers who had been abused by the coach, and they told him, and he didn't notify the authorities about it. Jim Jordan, ladies and gentlemen, who now wants to make sure that the Catholic churches are not targeted by the FBI. There is, a constant refrain within certain portions of republicanism that Christianity is under attack. It's simply not true, and there's no evidence that someone could point to. But somehow Jim Jordan has subpoenaed the FBI to find out, of all the things to be concerned about, is the FBI targeting Catholic churches? As now, if what he's getting at, and one of the guests that we're going to have on here fairly soon, is that the Homeland Security and Border Patrol did target religious leaders who were working to help migrants on the border. That's something that actually happened and just lost a lawsuit. I wonder if they're going to look that one up. We'll be hearing from that guest in the coming days here.
Yeah, I bet that's next on Jim Jordan's list.
I bet that is. But the thing that I guess you'd want to really worry about within the Catholic Church or any of the churches is the FBI bothering these good folks, or are children safe inside of any of these communities, whether it's the Catholic Church or the Baptist Church or local churches? There's so many places in which religion is not a safe place for people and really covers up and causes harm. And yet the refrain just keeps on going that Jim Jordan and others, and we'll talk about the criminal defendant here in a minute, about his claim that religion is under attack. But this is just the constant rolling out of this grievance that somehow Christianity is under attack. And look, it works. And if you're a person of faith, claim that faith and tell your friends, shout it from your rooftops, tell your neighbors and friends that there's another perspective on this boogeyman of the government really coming down on Christians and not letting Christians express their faith equally in the United States. It's really something.
Yeah. What this does is it really feeds a persecution narrative that exists in much of evangelical Christianity. There is this, it's interesting because there's kind of competing narratives that exist within evangelical Christianity, but a big part of it is this persecution narrative where, there's this sense of, there's not very many of us. We're the remnant. We're the strong forces of government and empire have aligned against us. And, there's kind of a woe is me kind of thing that goes along with that. And what Jim Jordan is doing is he is leveraging the tools of government that are legitimately in his power for oversight and accountability. And he is utilizing those levers of power as chairman of the Judiciary Committee and the Weaponization Committee, which is this is going to go down like the Committee on Un-American Affairs.
Totally.
But he is using these levers of power to pander to people who have this narrative.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that's what this is about. This is about pandering to them. It reinforces their narrative, and it communicates to them, hey, I'm on your side. And it is, I think Jim Jordan is about as dishonest and inauthentic a person as you possibly can get, from his choreographed ridiculousness of never wearing a suit jacket to, so he's got his personal brand of his blue shirt and his yellow tie with no jacket that he wears all the time. This guy, he doesn't believe any of this. He knows this is a bunch of BS. He is purely pandering. And
yeah, and it doesn't matter that they will inevitably find nothing because there's nothing to these cases. They're built on like internet rumors and not actual information. But it doesn't matter because the official, arm of the government has looked into it, and that legitimizes it in the eyes of the base.
Yep. Absolutely. And this is not the only ridiculousness that Jim Jordan is up to.
No.
I mean, Jim Jordan is also trying to insert himself into the criminal investigation, and not just investigation, the criminal trial. How good does that sound? Of accused criminal Donald Trump, indicted and arraigned criminal soon, someday to be convicted, hopefully Donald Trump. So what Jim Jordan is doing is he's taking the House Judiciary Committee that he also chairs. I mean, he chairs a couple of very powerful committees in the House of Representatives, and they are going to do a special field hearing. Now, when you think of congressional hearings, you probably think like, okay, I've seen Katie Porter with the whiteboard sitting at like the desk talking down to well, Katie doesn't talk down. Well, yeah, she probably does. But speaking to, a witness sitting at a desk with their name in front of them, and they've got to remember to turn their microphone on, and people are reclaiming their time, and, all of that stuff. You've seen those images. A field hearing is when they take this on the road. And it's a field trip for Congress people, basically. And it's a way of bringing attention to something important. Now, we attended, Doug and I don't think you were there, Dan, were you? We attended a field hearing for a committee that was meeting in El Paso, Texas, to focus in on immigration and border issues. And it was a really interesting experience being there. It gives the opportunity to hear stories from people who, typically wouldn't be able to make it to Washington, D.C. It was a really cool experience that we had. So Jim Jordan's doing this, but he's not going to, tackle really important things like, border issues or
gun violence, domestic violence. Yeah.
He's going to Manhattan to put on a taxpayer-funded, I say wink, wink, nod, nod, knowing that taxpayers don't actually fund anything.
There you go.
With the federal government. A taxpayer-funded hearing on the victims of violent crime in Manhattan. Jim Jordan from Ohio going to Manhattan to showboat about Alan Bragg, the Manhattan district attorney, and try to shine a light on him. You talk about politicalization and weaponization of the government. Jim Jordan's weaponization committee needs to investigate Jim Jordan's Judiciary Committee for weaponizing the power of the government.
Yeah, and what we have on the screen, which, Rob, I know you want to talk about the font choice, so we'll get to that as well in a moment, because it is also offensive and should be investigated why they would choose such a font. But what this advisory says is that the victims of violent crime in Manhattan hearing will, and this is reading straight from the advisory released by Jim Jordan, will examine how Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's pro-crime, anti-victim policies have led to increased violence in crime and dangerous community for New York City residents. The fact that the head of the Judiciary Committee would release a public statement with the Judiciary Committee banner at the top and saying, not in quotes, that it is a pro-crime, anti-victim policies, but just to declare that what the district attorney of Manhattan, a sovereign setting with its own elected officials, that he's going to declare that these are pro-crime, anti-victim policies. That is what people mean by weaponizing the power that you have of the federal government. So this kabuki theater that these people put on all the time about slander and speaking badly about people and using the power of the federal government to push a political agenda, there it is in black and white inside the Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan's hearing advisory notice.
Listen,
that
it's not there.
he released.
It's not there just in black and white. And Dan, I don't know if you have comments about this. I'm
It's
about to
not
go
just
there.
black and white.
It's not just black and white. It's also blue and yellow. And if you don't watch this show, if you just listen to this show on a podcast, thank you so much. You also should watch on YouTube, because if you watched on YouTube, you would be able to see an image of this Judiciary Committee announcement. And the banner of this, the heading of this is, it says Hearing Advisory, House of Representatives, Judiciary Committee, Chairman Jim Jordan, 118th Congress, in blue and yellow. And Judiciary Committee is in the dumbest font you have ever seen. It's like a government ripoff of Comic Sans. Why are the I's in Judiciary smaller than all the other letters in the word? This is not a serious font. This is the kind of font my 8-year-old would get and use when she's playing in Canva, making little houses. This is absolutely ridiculous.
It's really atrocious.
Well, look, you got to have those tiny eyes, because the dots of the eyes are going to get in the way of where they placed House of Representatives, which is way too close to the other letters below it.
Yeah. And it was clearly designed because it is the House of Representatives Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan logo. And among other things, the graphic design capacities of the staff in Jim Jordan's committee are about as limited as the investigatory capacity that their committees have had, because they've been at it now for months. And I'm just asking everybody, where is Hunter Biden's laptop? Because by golly, that's the one thing we all want to know. They still literally can't find it. And yet they'll talk about it every single day. It's just, these people are nonsense. We need a sound effect to say bad things to them. I am pushing buttons on my computer.
I am deeply offended by this banner and the font choices. But I will say this: I'm going to give Jim Jordan his due. It's blue and yellow. It's on brand for him.
He's on brand.
He wears the blue shirt
gold
and yellow tie every time. And I gotta say, a little bit of props. But get a serious font if you want.
Well, he is, yes.
Serious. You're the comic. I almost swore. You're the Comic Sans of Congress people.
Like, get an intern. Get
an intern.
22-year-old intern with a semester of graphic design.
All right, we can move on. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I want to get back to the premise of this. The premise of this is that violent crime is up so much, and Trump has said the same thing. Trump has said violent crime in Manhattan is now at a record level. Turns out it's not. There are about 34,000 purported felonies borough-wide in 2022. That figure was almost 150,000 in 1990. So it's like 5 times different. 5 times better than it was in the 90s.
In the real bad period.
So crime is way down. Look, we should still worry about crime. No one's saying that.
I think overall crime is down, misdemeanors and all that, but I think violent crimes in New York are actually on the rise. But that's true all over the country. Post-pandemic, all over the country, crime is through the roof. I mean, you could blame it on the most criminal administration ever that we had to live through for 4 years. Multiple people being indicted, criminal defendant Trump. I mean, just sort of a lawlessness from top to bottom. Maybe spurred on some of that, or maybe you can't draw such a direct line. But whatever the reasons, there is a serious amount of crime happening all over the country that we really do need to figure out how and why it's happening. Citizens hurting and harming citizens. Among the more high profile ones are the murders that are happening. And just again yesterday, another person with a weapon went into, in this case, a work environment in a bank in Louisville, Kentucky, and shot a number of people. And so far, 5 of them have died. And there have been 100. I heard this morning the statistic. This is the 100th day of 2023, and there have been 104 mass shootings, meaning more than 4 people were shot or injured in a situation that isn't related to simply domestic violence. Because interestingly, when they do list mass shootings, if you kill people or shoot people in your own family, they categorize that differently. So it needs to be 4 or more strangers to you or non-related persons to you. 104 of those, and like 14 of them have involved deaths and so on. So it's a serious amount of just perception and reality of violence in our country. And look, people want to say it all the time. I heard somebody on the news this morning, this is not who we are as a country. This isn't us. Oh, it's us. This is a violent country in times and places when we all wish it wouldn't be, but we can't be turning away and acting like something strange is happening. There's a citizen upon citizen movement of violence in this country that's just unacceptable, and it's at unacceptable levels. And the idea that the problem is the district attorney who's been, in his job for 14 months in Manhattan, that's the problem, that's really that's just where people like Jim Jordan should not be taken seriously, because this is not how you use whatever power has been given to you as the chairman of the judiciary, or for Republicans as a whole, the speaker, to have the control of the House of Representatives.
Yeah, for sure. But we know this is not a serious investigation of the rise of crime in Manhattan. This is an attempt to politicize the criminal trial of Donald Trump.
Right, which is so confusing, because if their argument is this guy is so pro-crime, but he's well, it's just a strange argument. Like, you should be arresting the other guys, don't be arresting me. So is he over prosecuting, or is he under prosecuting? So when you're into that argument, it's just downright ridiculous. But let's tap into the criminal defendant for a moment here, which I think is how we now need to refer to him, because his current status, it's like when someone is a congressperson, then becomes a senator, you always call them by what's perceived as their higher rank, which for some reason is senator. Or then if you become an ambassador, you're called an ambassador. And if you become a secretary of state, you're forever called the secretary or vice president or president. Well, now Donald Trump needs to be referred to as criminal defendant. So criminal defendant Trump, not former President Trump or even President Trump, the worst, but criminal defendant Trump, had a little rallying call among the religious people. Oh yeah, okay, Dan, let's talk about this one first. There's at least 4 criminal cases that are pending against Trump. There's the one that we all know about because he's criminal defendant in the Manhattan district. There's Georgia interference with the election. There's January 6th inciting the violence that led to the insurrection. And then there's the obstruction of justice and stealing documents in the documents cases. So we know of at least 4 criminal level investigations that involve grand juries and potential indictments. This is how criminal the guy is. Honestly, think of anybody else in your life. Think of anybody else in the country. Is there anybody that has 4 criminal investigations happening in 3 different jurisdictions covering a 4.5-year period of time? It's really remarkable. He is an overachiever when it comes to lawlessness. And then there's a 5th one, which is this defamation suit brought by Jean Carroll, a woman who claims that Donald Trump sexually assaulted her, and she has a trial pending against Donald Trump for defaming her, and he's going to lose that one. He is now in New York sitting for a deposition where he will be asked under oath. And Rob and Dan, some people remember when Bill Clinton was brought before a grand jury, and ask questions in a deposition, what that led to. So the criminal exposure for him is again high. He very well could either be civilly fined for his actions, or worse, if he does what he's done in other civil cases like depositions like this, not tell the truth, and there could be yet a fifth one coming. So it is just unbelievable, the level of criminality that this man is facing. And look, I have no sympathy or empathy for him, because he's gotten himself into it and he needs to dig himself out of this hole. But his lawyer bills have got to be through the roof.
Well,
paying
that's why
multiple attorneys to be working on multiple criminal investigations in your defense at the same time, let alone all the other scams that the man has been a part of on his business dealings. Considering the fact that his former lawyer and his former financial controller went to prison for activities related to his business. And somehow people are like, oh, it's just a big conspiracy. Everybody's against him. They're just all piling up on him because they're trying to, overrun Christianity in America. Because that's the new narrative that you hear from the Trumpist supporting religious people.
Yeah, one man's
which is a small fraction,
is
but
another
it's hardy.
man's
It's
Jesus
strong.
persecution
And that is
complex.
that as preacher Paula White put it, Donald Trump is indicted for your sins. That these investigators hate you so much they're taking it out on Donald Trump, just the way. And then she's got some bad theory about the atonement and crucifixion of Jesus, that somehow Jesus was being punished by God for your sins. A pretty classic view, also.
Yeah, so what we're talking about is a story that just came out.
Comparing Jesus and Trump's situations over the Easter week, just utter madness. But it called out, in great relief, what the argument is here, that Donald Trump somehow is leading a religious political cult that is dependent on its success for the success of America.
Yeah. So last Tuesday night there was a prayer
stunning.
call.
Trump even said they had a call for him. Ignite the prayer people call that Paula White led, that involved a bunch of the regular cast of characters around Trump in the religious world. And Trump, in that phone call, which reporters were sitting in on, argued that, quote, our beautiful Christianity has been targeted. We are being discriminated against as a religion. We're being discriminated against as a faith, and we can't let that continue. He goes on to say, the thing our country needs again is religion. I'm fighting very hard for people of religion, people that believe in God. I want you to pray really hard, because we have to have a victory in 2024. So here are these religious leaders claiming that Trump is being indicted because of the sins of the faithful people, that the government wants, the actions of the faithful people that the government wants to try to stop. And Donald Trump is our hero that needs to be saved on our behalf. It's just, it has really gone to a place that is it's almost impossible to explain it to anybody who, we've worked very hard in our work at Vote Common Good to understand the kinds of voters who feel trapped in a political and religious identity. You can explain that, and how they're making shifts and they want to have the freedom to not be caught in an old story. But this stuff, this Trump is Jesus and religion is under attack, and we need to have religion back in America, and we need Christian nationalism to be on the rise because that's the thing that's going to save us, coming from Donald Trump, is just full on inexplicable. You can't describe it to someone who, and have it make sense to someone who's not already inside that little bubble.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead, Dan.
I think you're on mute. Am I on mute?
Do you have us
mute?
muted?
No,
I don't think Doug can hear us.
Which explains why Doug just continued to talk.
Yeah, and I'm here.
Talk.
I don't know what's going on. I'm not hearing either of you. Are you guys hearing me?
We can hear you. It's a you problem, Doug. Huh. Do you want to pop off? Well, you can't.
I don't hear you.
If Doug pops off and pops
okay, well,
back
you guys
on,
talk amongst yourself, because I can't hear a thing here, so I'm gonna figure something else out.
But the speakers on this prayer call include kind of the usual suspects, including James Dobson of Focus on the Family, who I don't know about you, Rob, but that was like a big
I was
figure in my childhood. Like that
I
was
was raised. Yeah, I was raised by James Dobson.
yeah, it was second to the voice of God, and like
Mhm.
you listen to all the things he said about how to raise your kids and all that. And then of course we've got Christian nationalist worship leader Sean Foyt, who famously was doing the super spreader for
Yeah,
Jesus
where
events.
did this guy come from? He just like came out of the blue with his like poofy blonde hair, his lion mane, Aslan looking hair.
Yeah.
Like he just came out of nowhere um during the pandemic, leading outdoor events, social super spreader events during the pandemic, and now he's like the hero. He's the worship leader extraordinaire for the religious right. I don't even know where this guy came from. Like
I don't either. And
he's no
he's
Chris Tomlin.
famous in this picture where a bunch of evangelicals were in the White House praying for Trump. Everyone's standing there, and then there's Sean Foyt like leaning over awkwardly to touch the hem of Trump's garment. Like the most awkward, like
Yeah.
sycophantic
Yep.
photo of all time. And then he
Yep.
ran for Congress, I believe. I don't know if it was in his
What?
state but he didn't get past the primary or anything.
Primary. Well, that's a good thing. And then also included on here, and Dan, I don't know if you saw the text from Doug. He's trying to get back in.
Yeah.
But also included on here was former acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker, who briefly served as Attorney General during all of that ridiculousness. I got to tell you, and Michelle Bachmann, who's also not a serious person.
To round out the roster.
Yeah. We learned something about former acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker as we were reading this article before going on the air. And there was a little, I feel like Rolling Stone, who put out this article, really buried the lead. And and it was a little tidbit of information about Matt Whitaker that I would just encourage all of you to go find this article on Rolling Stone and keep reading. Keep reading.
Yeah.
It's near the bottom. You're gonna find out some stuff about Matt Whitaker that may very well change your life. It's really.
I'll just say
fantastic
he
stuff.
was in charge of a company that invented things. Or
Just
tried
let
to.
Just nah. Just let it go. Just let it go, Dan.
Just let it be a surprise for everyone.
We're going to give everybody the joy of firsthand discovery. Yeah. So, I mean, this is, again, Donald Trump is like, listen, this is not a serious person who cares about the well-being of the country, who cares about the state of Christianity in America. Our beautiful Christianity that he mentions on this phone call, this prayer call, it is all of this is pure political posturing. It's pandering to a voting base that you need, and frankly, a voting base that there's other articles that have talked about how Trisha wants to tell us about Whitaker. No, Trisha, you go find Rolling Stone. It's good. Trust me, it will be worth it. I don't know if that's actually the case, but so it's pandering to a political base that, frankly, some people think Donald Trump may be in trouble with. It could very well be that there's some folks that are saying that evangelical Christians might be kind of moving away from Donald Trump. Now, I don't see that happening. I am in a fool me once, fool me twice, fool me 875,000 times that I have thought, oh, this is the thing that will turn folks away from Donald. Oh, this is the thing. Oh, this is the and I have been wrong every single time. So I now think, no, I don't know. 85 to 90% of them are never leaving and are with him, for the duration, and maybe get passed on to his son, to go with him. I think it's a lost cause, but it shows that it feels to me like Donald Trump did not participate in this call because he wanted the personal encouragement of being prayed for by these Christian leaders. He participated in this call because it was a political calculation that he needed.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me that he sees that as a needed thing. And, this call leaks, that's all, part of the plan, so,
yeah.
I mean, Donald Trump.
And that people can't see through the pandering. Like, if someone's pandering to me, I'm like, get out of here. I don't.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's stuff I want to hear, if you can sense that it's inauthentic and that it's just a calculated thing, and that if the tides turn, this person's going to swing the other way, like, get out of here with that. Yeah. But I wonder, too, we've talked about this metaphor before of professional wrestling and politics. There's a book called The Empire of Illusion. I don't know if you've read this, but it has a whole chapter on the parallels of professional wrestling and politics, and the idea that people know it's not real, but you're still buying into the narrative, and you don't actually care if the person is serious or not. You don't actually care if they behave differently when they're off the stage, when they're out of the ring. As long as the narrative is there and you can cheer it on and find your place within it, that seems to be the most important thing.
Yeah. It's yes. There was an article that I've actually seen a couple of them recently comparing, the rise of Trumpism within the Republican Party to different elements of professional wrestling. One was related to this idea of kayfabe, which is kind of the professional wrestling term for, faking it, and that illusion that you were talking about. The other article I saw last week was related to, this idea of like that Donald Trump learned kind of the insult approach to speech giving through like professional wrestling promos that as wrestlers would like yell at each other and insult each other, that like that's actually where he learned all of that. So just super interesting stuff. And we continue to have Donald Trump as a big headache, but at least one, maybe if Alan Bragg does what we think he's going to do and is effective in his anti-crime prosecution, actually will bring Donald Trump down, which would be great.
That would be great. And one of these has got to stick, right?
Something's gotta stick.
It'll probably be something dumb, like he's gonna lie in one of these and get caught for that or something. But yeah, guy can't help but commit crimes. So, well, we lost Doug, but we're gonna wrap up here. Thanks for everyone in the chat for hanging out with us. Alex, Kimberly, Trisha, Kelly, yeah. Thanks for hanging with us. We'll be back tomorrow for Faith Day, and then Thursday we've got astrophysicist Paul Wallace, where we're going to talk about the stars and space and black holes and fun stuff like that. And then I'm guessing there'll be more political stories next Tuesday that we need to get into.
Something tells me.
All right, we'll see you all soon.